when you started making this film, you had no idea where you were going with it, right?
I knew that it would follow the life of Alexander Hamilton. I didn't know where Lin was going to go. He'd only just written a few songs, as he told me at that time. I think you were still thinking concept album, musical.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. I said, I don't care, it doesn't matter, because whatever it is, it's you telling the story of Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah.
So everything that came was an incredible bonus. The show, a trip to the White House, we'll take it, but at its core, it's just the life of Alexander Hamilton.
My big question, I think I will open this up with one question. There are like so many strands in this documentary that you have to keep going. You have to keep going the history strand. You have to keep going the relationship to the original text, to the stage performance, to the development of the stage performance. How long did it take you to edit this?
A little while. We filmed for about over 3 years. We captured nearly 100 hours. The film's about 82 minutes long. So a lot left, and as you pointed out, there are all these different threads. There's a man in the audience named Brett Mason, who's an editor of the highest caliber. I'm an editor, my background is in editing. Brett and I have been in the trenches together, so from the beginning we knew that there would be all these strands. And as long as we kept Hamilton's life as that core, everything else was just going to go around it. The whirlwind of Lin's ride on Hamilton, the musical, we would just take as it came and try to find those moments where it paralleled Hamilton's life. A good example is, we won the war, we made it to Broadway. We go and, that sort of thing. We just try to find those moments where we can connect and throw back and forth.
Let's take it open for questions. Is there a mic out there? No, there isn't. So talk up.
There's a
Who
mic
has a
over there.
mic?
Here.
Okay, so in the middle down here, I'll make your life difficult. Like in the fourth row in the middle? Yeah.
While we're waiting for a microphone to get to the middle of the house, I wanted to just clarify for the record that Renee spits fire.
Renee's an incredible freestyler. There was a moment during Right Hand Man where Renee and I would freestyle every night as George Washington was going, "Can I be real a second for just a millisecond?" It's actually one of the only times we were backstage together. So we would always freestyle, and she's really good.
Yeah, but he is, I'm better than that, but, I'm better than that, but when they asked me, he was kind enough to ask me, Renee, are you comfortable with this being in the movie? And my first response was yes, because this is clearly, clearly there's so much brilliance in this work, but so much that's brilliant comes out of him just in the moment and it's never written down. And so I got to be close enough to hear him say the craziest, mind-blowing things that no one would ever hear. He would, sometimes I would try to sneak my phone backstage so I could record some of his freestyles. And so I'm grateful that at least one of them lives forever in this documentary.
They were not appropriate for PBS. Most of them.
Yeah. Who's got the mic? Okay.
My question is, why did you choose a white person to play the king when you chose Black and Latino people to play all the other major players?
Johnny Roma's
Didn't want to tell you. But it turns out. That's a fantastic question. The answer is Jonathan Groff, and the answer is Brian Darcy James. Honestly, it wasn't always that way. In fact, in a lot of our workshops, it was played by a person of color. Actually, Josh Henry, who is playing Aaron Burr in Chicago right now, was one of our workshop Burrs. That part has always floated around, but it does sort of add a kind of an interesting layer. It does add a bit of distance. But that being said, we're always just trying to cast the best person for the part. And so, the character is played by a Caucasian actor now, but it could change. It has been, it changes the production. Great question.
Yeah, on the very end over here.
Thank you, Alex. This is wonderful. And I want to also thank Renee and your father. I'm Art Shreyam from Mallorca. Thanks to Renee and her father, I got the ticket to see the play. And thank you because watching the play changed my life. So, Alan, what Hamilton has been for you, probably you are going to be for me. Amazing. I read the book after that and saw this. It's beyond amazing. Thank you so much. You will be that person. And I'm sure there are many people like that. My question is, going through this journey as an artist and watching this and everything for you in Hamilton, I chose this country. I'm an immigrant. I came here and I decided to make this my home. And everything that's going on right now, I sometimes question it. So what do you think, where we are right now, what do you think after working as an artist, an immigrant's journey, like an immigrant's America, where are we right now? Because I know you're also very active in about everything that's going on. What's your thought as an artist, as an immigrant? How do we live through it and still do something and make something of your life?
That's a fantastic question. Thank you for asking it. It's, one of the things that, there are two things that are very recognizable in the show that I think resonate in 2016. One, Lafayette and Hamilton, two guys who came here from other countries, slapping each other five, being like, look at where we are. Look at what we've made of a life in this new country. That's part of our American narrative, is that people come here from other places and help make this country great. The other thing, which you see in Act 2, is Jefferson, Madison, and Burr singing, this immigrant isn't somebody we chose, this immigrant's keeping us all on our toes. It's almost an epithet. And it's another part of our history. And both things can be true. There is a long tradition of using the word immigrant as an epithet of distrust of the latest group of people who have gotten here. And it is a very easy thing to do for a politician, and it happens every 20 years or so. It usually happens around the election cycle, where you point at the people who got here most recently and say, they're the reason you don't have a job. And 'twas ever thus, happened with the Irish at the turn of the 19th century. It's happening with Mexican Americans right now. And this is about as virulent a form of this virus as I've seen in my lifetime. We have to survive it. And if it bothers you, vote.
I would like the historian. I was just going to say, I would like the historian's perspective on the same question.
It's interesting. From the time that the show started, the public theater back in January 2015, the show was so much greater sensation than any of us could possibly anticipate it, that reporters kept asking us, what is this whole Hamilton phenomenon about? And I found myself, one of the answers was, I said, at the time that Barack Obama was elected in 2008, 40% of all Americans being born in this country, being born to people who identify themselves as African American, Asian American, Latino, or biracial. That number is projected to rise to 50% by 2040. So by 2040, the minorities in this country will become the majority. And when I said to the reporters, as I think that people come to the theater, I think they see this extraordinary young multiracial cast, and they see the changing face of America. The show is really kind of celebrating, this changing dynamic, changing demographic. Then suddenly started watching the Republican debates, forgive me for being partisan for the moment, but I realized that everything that I was celebrating in these interviews and everything that Lin Company had been celebrating in the show, those same things were bothering a lot of people in the country. And this is kind of, I think, the power of art in terms, because we met in 2008, so this show was really 7 years in the making, and yet it anticipated in so many ways so many of the issues. And the other thing is, I think that it has a very, in a way, complex view of the founding era. That these people were so brilliant and creative and admirable on the one hand, and on the other hand, we see that they can be very malicious and partisan. So we're seeing a period of American history that's so much greater than anything that we're seeing now, but we also can see a lot of the roots for what's happening today and how dangerous it is when that kind of partisanship gets out of control.
Well, okay, and then.
My question is, what advice would you give to future playwriters like me?
Start right now.
I have.
Start right now. I'm not right now in the theater, but start today and don't stop. I started writing plays in 9th grade. They were pretty crummy. I started writing musicals in 11th grade. They were pretty crummy. But that being said, I had the really good fortune of going to a school that did theater, where theater was an extracurricular activity, and that was sort of where I found who I was. And there are outlets for that. If you're a young writer, there are outlets for your writing. Get started now, so that by the time you are, I don't know when, but you get good. You go from bad to good. And one of the things you have to do to be a good writer is be a great reader. Read everything you can, see as much as you can. We are around the corner from the New York Performing Arts Library, where if you fill out a nice piece of paper, you can see a lot of Broadway shows. I don't think a lot of people know about that resource, but it's an incredible one. And you live in New York, the greatest city in the world. It's such an advantage. Read a lot and write a lot. And when you see something you love, ask yourself why. And when you see something you hate, don't unplug it, don't turn it off. Ask yourself why. And that's how you form your taste. And that's how you sort of figure out the kind of writing you want to make. And that's the only way you become an artist. So start. Thank you.
First of all, thank you for Hamilton, and thank you for this. I didn't expect to cry during this, but I did, so thank you. My question is, you talk a lot about how the show was 7 years in the making, it took you so long to write it. When do you know when to stop tweaking? And I guess same thing with Mr. Chernow and Alex. When do you know when you're done with your project?
Tommy Kail tells me. Seriously, that's my answer.
PBS gave us an air date.
PBS gave him an air date. That's the best thing about deadlines. You know, people say, oh, now you have absolute freedom. Absolute freedom is terrifying to me. Deadlines I love. Restrictions I love. I like sonnets. I like haiku. I like a form so that I know what I'm working in. And so the deadlines were really incredibly useful, and it's always, I think Tommy is probably the best person in the world at setting a deadline that's just out of reach to make you work extra hard to reach it, whether it's we're doing a concert at Lincoln Center and you have 2 songs and you're gonna have 13 in 6 months. That was the first deadline he set for me. And to us moving from off-Broadway to Broadway, you know, we got those crazy reviews, as you saw in the doc, and everyone said, move right now. The conventional wisdom was, you have the momentum. If you wait, no one's going to remember you in a year. Ride the wave of hype right now. But Tommy and I knew we had a list of 20 things we didn't finish before we opened off Broadway. And so we knew that we had a better version of the show in our heads than the one off Broadway. And if we had moved that season, we would have had to basically present the off-Broadway opening night production on Broadway, and we knew we could do better. So that's an instance of Tommy Kail sort of moving the goalposts and saying, we will open this summer, we'll sell tickets soon so that people don't freak out, and we'll go. So Tommy Kail really gets the lion's share of the credit for letting me know when I'm done.
Thank you for all of this. It's incredible. My question was that why did you decide to portray Burr the way you did when, as you put it, he's often the villain?
Well, I think Leslie actually speaks to that more eloquently than I possibly could. You know, Aaron Burr is defined by his worst act on his worst day. That's all we know about him. I didn't know he was brilliant. I knew he was the guy who shot Hamilton before I picked up Ron's book. And before I did a ton of research. You know, Aaron Burr was one of the earliest feminists in America. He gave his daughter an education that was even greater than most men. He was ahead of the curve in New York when it came to the rights of African Americans in this country and slaves. He was part of the Manumission Society that helped ban the importation of slaves in New York City. And he was a brilliant lawyer, and there's a lot about him. He's complicated. At the same time, there's a ton we don't know about Aaron Burr, because unlike Hamilton, he didn't like to write down his opinion a whole lot. Most of what we know is from his letters to his daughter. And you know, one of the things that you only know if you dig deeper into Hamilton and Burr's life after seeing the show is that song, Dear Theodosia, where Hamilton and Burr are singing to their children, you're gonna be the future. Hamilton and Burr both survived their children. Philip died in the duel, and Theodosia died at sea on her way home to her father. So they both experienced that particular heartbreak as well. So to me, they're twins.